Think about this, a $1.5 trillion ask by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. That really sets the stage for a Capitol Hill hot seat exchange today. Think about this. This marks the first time Hegseth testifies under oath since the start of bombing in Iran. So let's go live now to CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion. She's listening in on Capitol Hill as we speak. Nikole, what are the top lines from what you're hearing there?
Well, I think the main top line is the cost of the Iran war. That is certainly what many lawmakers would like to know. There was an official from the Pentagon who said right now their current estimate is $25 billion, which is the first time we've actually heard or seen a figure attached to this, although Pentagon officials made clear that they do intend to put forth some type of war supplemental to Congress that they will first work through the White House on that. So that is not an official figure, but just an estimate to date, according to one top Pentagon official who was there at the hearing alongside Secretary Hegseth and Joint Chairman of the Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Caine. But that is really, in terms of Democrats on the panel, what they are trying to get at. Obviously, this is a budget hearing, so the focus is on the Pentagon budget. Already, the president has put forth a $1.5 trillion request for the Pentagon, and the secretary defending that amount, saying that it is important for the United States to be able to maintain its military dominance, and that this particular request on the part of the president is warranted. I would note that the hearing is on the verge of breaking because there are votes in the House right now. So beyond the opening statements that we have had both from members on the committee and the secretary himself, that's kind of why we are now kind of almost at a stopping point here with the hearing temporarily. But again, this is really the first time lawmakers are having an opportunity to question the secretary about the war, about the strategy going forward, even though this is a budget hearing. But thus far, certainly that has been the thrust of the hearing thus far.
Nikole, I hate to play headline ping pong with you, but let's go back to that Supreme Court decision ruling from this morning. It greatly affects Congress, greatly could affect the balance of power in Congress. Any early reaction from Capitol Hill?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked, because it does have significant political implications when we talk about these congressional maps. We did hear from Speaker Mike Johnson, who of course is from Louisiana, and called this the right result. But I do think we have to be careful about classifying this as a win or a loss for either side, because it could have dramatic implications, not only when we talk about this particular map that was struck down in Louisiana, which I have been to, by the way, and I would argue that, in talking to some of the constituents there, those who pushed for this majority black district, most of whom were people of color, said that they felt it was important to have representation that looked like them, particularly in a state where African Americans make up a significant part of the population, up to a third of the population within that state. So that is why those who were in favor of creating this second black majority district, what they were pushing for in this case. But, obviously this now has implications for, as I said, not just this district, but other districts, particularly in the South, going forward at a time where we are in a very contentious redistricting war between both Republicans and Democrats in a number of states. So I believe, as both Jan and Jessica mentioned, this could potentially open up the door now to other states trying to potentially redraw their maps, where that redistricting war could really be on steroids, if you will, in light of this decision. Obviously, it's certainly possible that there will be an appeal here, but, this does impact everyday voters who, in the case of some of these voters in Louisiana, simply wanted representation that looked like them, understood their needs within their respective communities. But obviously the Supreme Court's decision today kind of changes those dynamics. So we will see how Congress reacts. But certainly there is a lot of concern, particularly on the part of Democrats, that this significantly weakens the Voting Rights Act and could further potentially dilute the power of voters of color going forward. So certainly the implications likely to be wide-reaching, Reed.
Nikole, I cannot thank you enough for that context, and especially your deep reporting with voters there in that district. I appreciate that so much, and we're going to make sure that that line of questioning is in our broadcast going forward. Nikole, Killion, as always, brilliant reporting and context. Thank you so much.